Well, there certainly has been more than the regular amount of human drama in the men's movement of late. I suppose that comes with growth, so I tend to take it as a high-class problem. Still, there's a great deal of buzz going around of late about AVFM's inner workings. There's a lot of online speculation, a good bit of misinformation, some disinformation, and some honestly blatant bullshit. Some of it from places that are kind of a surprise to me. I'm going to try to correct as much of this as I can today, fully knowing and not really caring that there are some in the so-called manosphere who just don't like AVFM or that don't like me personally and aren't going to no matter what I say. That's pretty much as things should be in a world where people get to think what they want to. So with that, I offer this video as information, not as a counter-argument in a debate. I'm going to start with the decision to let go of the woolly bumblebee from the AVFM editorial staff. In explaining this, I think I can help make sense of some of the hoopla that surrounded it and some of the BS as well. For months, I'd gotten semi-regular complaints about the woolly bumblebee's addition to the AVFM roster. Most of the complaints centered around her politics, which appear to be significantly left of center. Some of the complaints were simply because she's female. I really didn't and still don't find these complaints compelling or of much value, and I'm being generous just to say that. The reason for this is that AVFM has never been ideologically aligned concerning politics. Though it is a sore subject for some, I also point to the fact that I removed Bernard Chapin's material from AVFM after his incessant attempts to bully us into making our corner of the men's movement a left-right issue, with us choosing the right in keeping with his personal politics. It was the same story for the even less cogent and not so rocking Mr. E. Our policy at AVFM, as has been in our mission statement for years, is political non-affiliation. That is just a hard idea for some people to wrap their heads around. The editorial position is that all mainstream political parties are gynocentric, and the evidence bears that out. Does this mean that members of the staff don't have political views? Well, of course not. It just means that I never cared about what those views were, as long as AVFM was not used as a podium to proselytize them. And this, in a roundabout way, brings us to the woolly bumblebee. I had ignored all the complaints about her until I was informed of two major matters of importance. One, that she was publicly saying that libertarians had no place in the MRM and should leave, and also her continued attempts to publicly shame men who identify as going their own way. Now, given that AVFM welcomes people regardless of their political beliefs, again, as long as they leave their political agenda at the door, it was clearly an issue for someone with the title of senior editor to be going around telling people to get out of the movement based on having political ideas different than hers. It's the same for men going their own way. I am sure that Woolly Bumblebee might have noticed the strong sentiment supporting men who go their own way at AVFM over the years. She might have noticed our support for the marriage strike, our positive coverage of the Soshikudanshi in Japan, our running videos and articles from people like Barbarossa, whose work we have openly admired for years. Oh yes, she might have even taken the time to listen to the song Go My Own Way being blasted out from the AVFM radio shows she often sat in on as a co-host. Given all this, that Woolly Bumblebee was out in the online community alienating a healthy percentage of our core audience, inflicting her personal politics, and fucking shaming men for going their own way, it just seemed a little odd to keep her on. So I let her go. That's the simple truth of it. I did not let her go for being left-wing, because I don't care if she's left-wing. I did not let her go for being a woman, because I care even less about that. I let her go because she vomited her personal preferences for politics and lifestyle on the very community that we serve, which is not so coincidentally about fed up with women telling them how to think and how to live. Then there's the matter of her video that came out in the aftermath of all this. It's the one she had made at an earlier date but kept private, in which she expressed cryptic concerns about ideology creeping into AVFM. It was her, "Gee, I really wish I didn't have to post this" video. But allow me to tell you the real story behind it, since she's clearly not going to. What she was referencing in that video was a conversation I had had with her on the phone. She wanted to talk to me because she had heard that I was going to give a public endorsement as an AVFM position piece to an article by James Huff on something called First Principles. She was concerned, and please imagine that word in scare quotes, that the document was politically ideological, leaning toward libertarianism. And the thing is, I agreed with her. I really like the piece and agree with much of it, but the fact of the matter is that despite having decided libertarian leanings myself, non-affiliation politically is a policy I established at AVFM for a reason. I did not officially endorse First Principles and didn't include it on the masthead. She made that vague video and was going to release it in case I did. And when I let her go, she released it anyway. And all this was because she thinks she should be able to drum anyone out of the MHRM who does not get in line with her left-wing politics and apparently her view that men should let her choose their path in life or face her shame if they don't. Now, until recently, I was happy to say that this was behind us. We do have better things to do. We have a lot of shiny red apples at AVFM, and discarding the occasional rotten one should not be the cause of too much excessive drama. But the plot thickens. Last night, I got a tweet from our old friend Mikeru of Creepy Bitter Girl fame. He's a bright and talented YouTuber who has been an admirable thorn in the side of the feminist ideologues now stinking up the atheist skeptic community. And he's been an outspoken antagonist of those who have attacked members of the MHRM for asserting that men's rights are human rights. Suffice it to say, I was a little surprised to get a tweet from him saying that I had burned my bridges with the atheist skeptic community, citing my severing ties with Woolly Bumblebee as the reason. Well, first I was surprised that Mikeru apparently thinks he speaks for the entire atheist skeptic community, and even more surprised that he thinks any of this has anything to do with secular activism. I was honestly baffled for a little while, well, until I was led to another message of his from Twitter. It was a message in which, like Woolly Bumblebee and Rocking Mr. Ian Bernard Chapin, he asserts that everyone ought to move out of the MRM unless they subscribe to his personal form of politics. Coincidentally, in this case, Maki was targeting libertarians as the ones who had to go and identified secular progressives as the one who should take over. I must have just missed the boat or been too busy to pay attention lately, but somewhere in the long lull of silence that transpired after Mikeru made a couple of very smart videos, he became not only the sole representative of the secular community, but also the final arbiter of who would and would not belong in the men's movement. Oh, and he has taken to trashing men going their own way, too. Gee, does any of this sound a little familiar? I've had more than my share of surprises since I started A Voice for Men. And I suppose I'll have to plead guilty to a little naivete where it concerns some people. I have worse faults than that. But I have been pretty surprised at how difficult it is for some people to just focus on the idea that men's rights are human rights, because men are human beings. From the right and from the left, there is now pretty constant, if completely futile, pressure on AVFM to conform to somebody else's fucking ism. I say it is futile because it is. As long as I'm in control of AVFM, it will remain forever non-aligned. Why? Because we don't serve mainstream politics. Because mainstream politics are a very big part of the problem with gynocentrism. Because to align with the right or the left, the Republicans, the Democrats, Libertarians, Labor, or Conservative is the absolute easiest way to take the focus off men and boys and start putting it into the same shop-worn political arguments that any clone can participate in by watching Fox News or CNN. If I wanted to become a part of the brainwashed masses, I would have not eaten red pills and become a men's activist. And the fact is that doing things this way is one reason why AVFM has enjoyed so much success. It's why our Alexa ranking now looks like this instead of this, or this, or even this. And it is why we will continue to grow. We are not going to be owned by anyone's ism. In that light, I made a decision a long time ago that AVFM would not even get close enough to ideology to use a term like masculism. It is about the human rights of men. It is not about a men-first approach that only fits with victim politics and dogma. I think this is an important message. If someone like Mikaru, who has some fairly significant creds as a member of the secular community, can throw his reason and rationale out the door like a bucket of dirty mop water because someone has different political beliefs or because a man chooses to go his own way, then that alone should tell you of the inherent danger of ideology and why we won't have a part of any of it. So to be clear, AVFM will stay on the course that it's on. People are welcome to keep their isms or to shove them where the sun doesn't shine. Those isms have ultimately been used to exploit men long enough that we figure it's just about time that a path be carved for men to escape from it. I see that happening in the phenomena of men going their own way and send out a thumbs up to that. We will continue to welcome editorial assistance with the site regardless of a qualified person's politics or lack of politics. We will continue to welcome contributions from anyone regardless of sex, race, or any other typical line of division now so popular with the brainwashed masses, as long as they're contributing something meaningful to the discussion on men and boys. And we will continue to not give a shit who has a problem with it. Will this cause problems for us from time to time? Well, Woolly Bumblebee was proof that it certainly will. But that's the price you pay for staying non-aligned, and I'm welcome to pay it. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.